Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back having a look at the Leviathans update trailer, and the basic reason for this is because I thought it would be fun going through some of the maybe little details that you missed, and then also I missed on the first viewing. Also, just to let you know, today it looks like it's going to be a dev day, so we're going to be doing the dev streams in probably a few hours, then we'll have the dev server, and we'll be live streaming it all on Twitch and YouTube. So if you want to check it out, you can do there. If you don't have time, or you're not about, that's fine. What I'll actually do is I'll make the live stream public on YouTube, and then also I will produce the videos about all the new vehicles, all the new mechanics, the general stuff that we do over this period of time. So look forward to that. It's going to be a busy weekend, but it'll be quite a fun one. All right, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. So let's get into the first part of it. So I thought what Gaijin did at the start of this video is really cool. They did a homage here. Now, this homage is basically to a game called Jungle Strike, if you actually have a look at it. And it's kind of video. I don't want to show it because of copyright stuff. But basically, the intro to the game is very similar to what you see here, and I think that's really cool that they ended up doing it. There's also Jungle Strike, but also a bunch of other Comanche video games that turned up. I don't know why it became such a kind of actual very, very special thing, maybe because of its stealth, reconnaissance helicopter nature. But it's actually really nice to see from the early 2000s they're doing these homages and showing off these types of vehicles. So it's actually really cool, and I'm super happy that they ended up showing it. So let's talk about the next part of it, which is, of course, the F2. The F2 is coming into the game. We already talked about what it is. It's a souped-up F-16, basically. Much larger in size than an F-16. Also has some very, very modern electronics in it, a very modern radar, very modern RWR, and also Gaijin said that it would come eventually, but it couldn't come when people wanted it because it would have been pretty overpowered, and it definitely would have been. One of the things that they've shown in this video here is the armaments of the machine, and that's kind of the more interesting part of it. You can see over here, we have some kind of fuel tank, we have some standard bombs, which look like they have the kind of guided kit that you can add to them, similar to paveways, and then also you have missiles on the side. Now, when it comes to the Japanese tech tree, if you have a look at the F-15J, they already have AAM-3s and AAM-4s in the game. So the only one that technically this machine could get, which would be new, would be the AAM-5s. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure this thing will just get the AAM-4s and also the AAM-3s, which are the active radar homing missiles, and then just the standard IR missiles that you can see here. You can also see that this one looks like an AIM-9M, which has turned up. So it looks like it's going to get very similar armaments to the F-15J, which is already in the Japanese tech tree. Here's the AAM, and then here is the AIM-9. So yeah, AIM-9Ms and the AAMs-3s should be pretty fun. Here's its other loadout, showing that it has the 4 larger missiles and then the 4 smaller missiles. So I don't think it'll be able to carry anything under its fuselage. It does have a targeting pod in some of the pictures of it, which you can see. Basically, you can see the fuel tanks, the external ones, but here, so it has this targeting pod, which is kind of just sat on the vehicle. Don't really know why, but overall, you're getting 8 missiles, and so, once again, very similar loadout to the F-15. The major difference is that this should be a much better dogfighter than the F-15 itself, so it won't just be a missile bus, and also it should have different internal systems, which I think is pretty cool. Now, in terms of the next part, we have a bunch of naval stuff, right? And I feel like this kind of thing has been done in a mission editor, because for some reason you just have a million Hurricanes wandering around, and these look like the Hurricane Mark IVs, because you can see it has like a little protrusion out of it, so I don't really know what's going on, why there's just a million Hurricane Mark IVs here, And then also you have the BF-109. This looks like the Emil series that is turned up, but of course we have the Bismarck. And the way that all three of these ships are set out is very similar to how they were supposed to be set out historically, with their kind of like battle groups. So you have like the big battleship in the middle, and then you have some destroyers either side, and then you have some cruisers around the place. So it's just a really nice historical nod that they actually set it up like this, and they do it for all three of the machines. So they have kind of a cone or a circle of defense around the big battleships, which is really cool. The detail on this Iowa is really nice as well, and I think what I'll do is we'll deep dive into these vehicles once the dev server's out, because I think it's just really awesome to see these things. And then also doing a homage to the attacks that the Pacific fleets did when it came to America. If you want to have a look at kind of the Pacific War, one of the things that was huge was the use of bombers from aircraft carriers, and then also long-range reconnaissance stuff as well from Midway, such as B-17s and things like that. So the fact that they did a homage to them here is actually really cool. You can see that you have... Look at this boy. I noticed this in the trailer. There's a few vehicles which shouldn't be here. Someone actually brought up an interesting point on Reddit, the idea of like looking at these formations and being like, oh, look, maybe they're going to add in aircraft carriers. I don't think so. I think they were, as I said, they were just doing a historical homage to these battleships and what ended up happening to them, which is why they all have ridiculous amounts of AA. But yeah, you have Helldivers coming down, and then, yeah, somebody snuck in a Bearcat. Now, if you don't know what the Bearcat is, the Bearcat is the F8F. We have it in the American tech tree, and it's one of the vehicles that didn't really... Well, I suppose it depends, right? It's a 1945 vehicle. It did technically, I believe, enter service before the war ended, very similar to the Tiger Cat, which we also have, but it didn't really do anything on the Pacific front. So it was in squadrons, but it wasn't actively used, I don't think. It was one of those that came a bit too late for the war, and it's just really funny how it's just here. Like, it's just turned up. It may have done some combat missions during the war, but it was incredibly limited. Also, there was this one, and then the 1B that we have in the game, both in the American tech tree. But I don't know who snuck this in or why it got snuck in, but it's just funny it's there, because I don't see it anywhere else. But yeah, you can see once again the setup around the Yamato. You have the heavy cruisers, you have the destroyers, and then of course the Yamato itself with all of its ridiculous guns in the center of it, which will be really interesting to see. Somebody has asked me about why have they skipped a bunch of ship classes to add these in, and I know it's awful to say, but it literally is because this is what people care about. Like, you could continuously add ships to War Thunder over and over and over again, but actually finding the ones that people are interested in is quite hard, right? Like, one of the things that I've heard basically from the start of War Thunder Naval is a lot of people saying, hey, I want the Bismarck, I want the Iowa, I want the Yamato, I want these things to actually play in the game. Well, here you go. Now it's time to put them in. If you put in random vehicle that doesn't have as extended of a history, or doesn't have something which is as prominent when it comes to media, the people are just not interested. And that's what we've kind of seen with a lot of the vehicles in. So kind of like how Gaijin skipped a bunch of vehicles when they added the F-16, or when they skipped a ton of vehicles, like 20 vehicles, when they added the F-14, it's the same with these things. They're adding them in as kind of shock factor, as kind of people wanting to grind them, and then they're going to add in vehicles around them, which is what they do every time to fill out the BR bracket and get people interested. If they ended up just doing it so they just did it progressively, just adding the slightly bigger ship every time, that's how game modes kind of die, because you don't, even though you get a nice natural progression, you still need the hook. You still need people actually interested in the vehicles. And unfortunately, these are the ones that, if you talk about like the general public, these are the ones that people actually know. So you can talk about all the different kind of like battleship classes from different nations, or you can talk about the ones from America specifically and how sad it is that they missed a bunch out. But the reality is people don't know about them. So the actual hook is very, very low. And that sucks, it really does. Because, it would be nice to see them, and I'm sure we will see them in the future, because that's kind of how it goes. Gaijin did also talk about how there was going to be a kind of an afterburner slash flame improvement. So that's basically what I think they're showing here with the good old F2. There's also this. I have no idea what this is, but it just looks weird. And usually this is the area for the parachute, but some vehicles do have an IRCM here. I don't think the F2 has one, but it just looks so odd. I don't know what's going on with this tail, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm pretty sure this is a parachute, because, it's a pretty modern aircraft. They all usually have chutes, unless you're Swedish, but yeah. Then we have, of course, the multi-vehicle stuff. I made a video yesterday talking about the multi-vehicle setups and how they're going to work. We'll test them on the dev server and see how it is. I think it'll be pretty fun. And then we even see, of course, this boy, the Humvee. Now, this is actually really cool for many different things. The Humvee is one of those vehicles that I know a lot of people have wanted for a long time. Obviously, quite an iconic American vehicle, but they just haven't really added any in the game. They added the Japanese Humvee, as it's known, but it's not really a Humvee. This is an actual Humvee, I think is the way to put it. And it's coming in as a extended version with the kind of radar system, which is pretty cool. And then also the anti-air version with access to the AMRAAM, or the SLAMRAAM, the surface-launched AMRAAM, and then also the AIM-9X, I believe. Now, when it comes to this AMRAAM, at least the one that's in the trailer, this one looks like an AIM-120A, not a later version of the AMRAAM. Now, the later versions of the AMRAAMs, if they decide to add them, they're just much better at tracking, and also at the same time, they really don't care about multipathing. Now, the way that Gaijin handles multipathing in the game is it's the same for everything across the board, even though in real life that isn't actually the case. So this missile, if they decide to give it the C version of the AIM-120, should be a lot better than the previous ones, but at least right now in the trailer, that's not the case. The AIM-9X, we'll have to see its stats. Obviously, it should be quite a significant improvement over the other AIM-9s. And another thing that should be mentioned about this, in trailers, they sometimes put the wrong armaments on vehicles, okay? So there was a famous one, I can't remember, it might have been last year or the year before, there was a MiG-29, and this MiG-29 had R-73s on it, which it was technically in real life, that's what it should have, at least the version that they added. I'm not sure if it was that one, though, because it was the 912 version. But basically, in the teaser, it had R-73s. When it came to the game, it didn't. And this pissed off a lot of people because they were like, hey, why doesn't this have the proper munitions that it should have? For several reasons. So, yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, just always take it with a pinch of salt, because these things could be wrong, or they could decide to change them from teaser to actual update. Another one is also the F2 loadouts as well. Has, AM3, AM4, bombs, rockets, but they may change that depending on what happens too. So just remember when you're looking at like ordnance options, that can kind of happen. The fun thing about the AIM-9X one, though, is it is one of the missiles that literally you can fire forwards and it can do a loop and hit a person behind you, which I think is just really funny. But I don't think you'll be able to do that in this vehicle. Another thing to also mention is just because a lot of ground vehicles are getting some very, very powerful munitions does not mean that they will come to air anytime soon. We're getting the IRIS systems in. We're getting the Swedish one. We're also getting access to the German one. The German one is superior by quite a lot. It's the upgraded version, which has the very, very good extended range on it. You also, have access to that on planes, the IRIS, right? It is, and at least I believe first was developed as an air-to-air missile and then modified for ground use, just like the AIM-120s as well. You can see here what it says for the name. So yeah, just take that into account. You know, I know people will want these missiles. They'll be crazy overpowered in air. And just put it like this, they will eventually come, okay? Because all these things do come, but just give it time is the way I'm going to put it. So L-39, the Czech training jet. I don't know why I keep saying test jet. The L-39, it could come in a bunch of different ways. Pretty sure this is the ZA. And the reason for that is just because of how it's set up underneath. You can see you have kind of like the gun pod here. This is the 23mm gun pod that this vehicle has access to. Also, it should have access to 4 hard points, which is something that we see in the trailer too. You can see the 4 hard points on the wings. Really surprising how close they are together. Meaning that ordnance options can be pretty limited, but because of these hard points, it can actually carry some pretty cool stuff. So first of all, you have bombs, so it can carry either like 2 150s or 4 250s. It could technically carry 100 kilo bombs as well. These are the FABs and the OFABs, which you'll be used to when it comes to Russian stuff. Can technically bring fuel tanks if you really want to as well, and then also some rocket pods. So that is there too. The other one is the missiles. It can technically carry the R3U or the R35. There's also provisions for stuff like standard air-to-air missiles that you'll know, such as R60s on this thing. So that's another one that could turn up, but we'll have to see depending on what type of BR they want to give this thing. Remember, this was supposed to be a premium vehicle coming in for Russia, which we'll see how that goes. With, of course, everything going on right now, it's not usually going to be rosy. Talking about some pretty interesting kind of munitions, you have, of course, the Comanche. And the Comanche does have external hardpoints. You can see here that it can carry them, but also it has some internal ones too. And I was wondering if that would actually affect its kind of radar signature, and if it will actually make it smaller or larger compared to what it's supposed to be. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with this machine. They do show that it has access to the standard Hellfires that you know. Doesn't look like it's going to get the upgraded Hellfires. Gaijin have actually said many times that they don't really want to add in those Hellfires because they have some very crazy abilities, which would be very powerful. Then again, they've added a lot of other munitions, like the KH-38MT, which is also incredibly powerful and incredibly busted. So who knows? Maybe things will change in the future with something like this. But you can see it has the internals and the external Hellfires. It should also be able to carry a bunch of anti-air stuff and many other things too. So that, in general, should be quite fun. Now, this one, we kind of didn't cover too much in terms of the video. So I thought I'd kind of like sit down and go through a little bit about this, because this is really the only ground vehicle that they've really shown, which isn't just an AA. So this is the T-72B3A. We have the B3 already in the game. This is just a standard B3, but it has access to the Arena M APS, which is the more modernized version of the Arena. As an active protection system, it's designed to stop a bunch of different missiles. It's designed to stop TOWs, TOW-2s, the Javelin, and also many others. So this should be pretty good, not just against ground stuff, but also air stuff. Think about some other APSs we have in the game. You know, you have the Black Knight, which has an APS. You also have stuff like the Makarova. This is just going to be another for the Russians. Now, the Drozd system, which we already have on the T-55, works pretty well. It's similar to the Arena. And then you also have others which don't work very well, such as the T-90A ones, which doesn't really match up against anything. The T-72B3A here is going to be a top-tier vehicle, probably 11.7, along with the B3, because the other upgrades that this thing has doesn't really matter. It has the relic armor on the side. You can see it here. This is more similar to the relic you see on the T-90M instead of the T-72B3. On the B3, you just have like the bags, whereas this is kind of the weird plates that the T-90M gets, but it will basically have the same armor as the T-72B3, has the same engine, has the same targeting speed, everything's the same. It should just have the arena and then look slightly different because they're using a different type of mounting system for the relic. Still has contact 5 on the turret, still should only have standard ERA on the upper glacis too, so really shouldn't make any much of a difference, but if it does, I'll make sure to cover it for you. So yeah, as an MBT, it's nice to see. It's one of those that is cool, and I'm glad that we're getting an MBT this update, but at the same time, this one probably is going to be folded with the standard T-72B32. I don't think it's too much of an upgrade, especially since most of the munitions that you fight should actually be able to defeat its APS on it. As always, let me know what you think of the trailer, and also look forward to more news today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Warthunder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.